The old house stood on a hill overlooking the town, its silhouette a stark cutout against the setting sun. For Liam and Chloe, it was a dream come true. They carried the last of their boxes through the grand oak door, their laughter echoing in the high-ceilinged foyer. "I can't believe this is ours," Chloe said, spinning in a circle, her arms outstretched. Liam caught her, smiling. Home sweet home. Later, while exploring the dusty, forgotten corners of the attic, Chloe's fingers brushed against something hard and wooden tucked under the eaves. She pulled it out. It was a music box, intricately carved with vines and roses, its wood dark with age. It felt heavy, substantial, a relic from a forgotten time. "Liam, come look at this," she called out, her voice muffled by the rafters. Downstairs, she carefully cleaned the dust from its surface. The lid was stiff, but with a gentle push, it creaked open. Inside, a tiny ballerina stood poised. Chloe wound the small key on the side. A delicate, haunting melody began to play, filling the quiet room. It was beautiful, but there was an undercurrent of sadness to the tune, a sense of longing that sent a shiver down her spine. Liam wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Find a treasure?" he whispered. "I think so," she replied, closing the lid as the last note faded. That night, their peaceful sleep was disturbed. A faint whisper seemed to drift from the hallway, like a sigh on the wind. Chloe sat up, listening. "Did you hear that?" Liam, half asleep, mumbled a no. She dismissed it as the old house settling. But then the bedroom door, which they had firmly shut, slowly creaked open. A cold draft swept through the room. Now they were both wide awake, staring into the darkness. The next day, still feeling unsettled, Chloe found herself drawn to the music box again. She opened it, and the same melancholic tune filled the air. And just like before that night, the strange occurrences returned, but with greater intensity. They heard footsteps pacing in the empty hall above them. The kitchen cabinets, which they had just organized, were found wide open, their contents rearranged. A framed photo of them on the mantelpiece fell to the floor, the glass shattering. Fear began to curdle the initial joy of their new home. It was undeniable now. Something was here with them, and it seemed to be connected to the music box. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Liam and Chloe delved into the town's archives, searching for any information about their new home. The librarian, a woman with kind eyes and a deep knowledge of local history, pointed them toward a dusty ledger. There, they found it. The house had been built for a woman named Eleonora Vancroft over a century ago. The records were sparse, but one entry stood out, a faded newspaper clipping detailing a tragic accident. Eleonora had died in the house, a sudden and sorrowful end. The article was short on details, but the accompanying photograph showed a woman with piercing, sad eyes, holding something in her hands. As they looked closer, their blood ran cold. It was the music box. The connection was terrifyingly clear. Each time they played the music, they were unknowingly calling to her, stirring her restless spirit. That night, they decided they wouldn't touch it. They placed the box on the highest shelf in the living room, hoping that silence would bring peace. But the house had other plans. The silence was worse. It was a heavy, expectant silence, filled with an unseen presence. The air grew thick and cold. The whispers were no longer faint. They were clear, weaving through the rooms, calling a name that wasn't theirs. "My love, where are you?" The voice was filled with a desperate, heartbreaking sorrow. Suddenly, all the lights in the house flickered and died, plunging them into absolute darkness. In the center of the living room, a faint, ethereal light began to glow. It coalesced, shimmered, and took shape. Before them stood the translucent figure of a woman in a long, flowing gown. It was Eleonora. Her face was a mask of torment and grief, her form flickering like a weak flame. She wasn't just a whisper anymore. She was here, a terrifying and sorrowful apparition. Chloe stifled a scream, grabbing Liam's arm. Eleonora's ghostly eyes locked onto them and then drifted upwards to the shelf where the music box sat. She raised a spectral hand, pointing. The music box began to glow with the same ethereal light. It levitated from the shelf, floated down, and the lid opened on its own. The haunting melody filled the room, more powerful and resonant than ever before. As the music played, the world around them dissolved. They weren't in their living room anymore. They were standing in the same room, but a century earlier. They saw Eleonora, vibrant and alive, receiving the music box as a gift from a handsome man. The vision shifted. They saw her alone, winding the box, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. The man was gone, lost to war. The next vision was a blur of shadows and fear. A dark figure, a jealous rival, chanting words of malice over the music box, twisting its melody of love into a chain of sorrow. He had cursed it, binding Eleonora's spirit to the object she held most dear, trapping her between worlds, forever searching for a love she could never reach. The visions faded, and they were back in their dark living room, Eleonora's spectral form weeping silently before them. She wasn't a malevolent force. She was a prisoner. Through her sorrowful gestures and the lingering images in their minds, they understood. She needed their help. The curse could be broken, but it required a ritual, a counterspell hidden within the house itself. Guided by Eleonora's ghostly whispers and gestures, they began a desperate search. She led them to a loose floorboard in the attic, where they found her old journal. The pages were filled with her elegant script, detailing her love, her heartbreak, and finally, her discovery of the curse. In the final pages, she had transcribed the ritual to break it. It required 3 items: a rose from the garden she had planted, a tear of true sympathy, and for the music box to play its song from start to finish at the stroke of midnight, unburdened by the curse. With the clock ticking, Liam rushed into the overgrown garden and found a single, resilient white rose still blooming. Back inside, as the grandfather clock in the hall began to chime 12, Chloe looked at the weeping spirit of Eleonora. Overwhelmed by the woman's century of loneliness and pain, a genuine tear of sympathy fell from Chloe's eye onto the rose's petal. She placed the rose gently on top of the open music box. As the final chime of midnight struck, Liam and Chloe stood together, holding their breath. The melody from the box began to change. The underlying sadness lifted, replaced by a tone that was clear, peaceful, and full of release. The haunting tune had become a lullaby. Eleonora's form grew brighter, the torment on her face melting away into a serene and grateful smile. She looked at them, a silent thank you in her eyes, before slowly fading, dissolving into 1,000 points of light that danced in the air for a moment and then vanished. The music box played its final, gentle note and fell silent. A profound quiet settled over the house, but this time it wasn't heavy or threatening. It was calm. The air felt light again. The cold was gone. They had done it. They had set her free. In the first light of dawn, the house felt truly like a home. The oppressive weight was lifted. But as Chloe walked past the living room, her eyes fell upon the music box sitting silently on the table. It was just a wooden box again, beautiful and ornate. Yet, a question lingered in the quiet air, a subtle, unspoken thought. The spirit was gone, the curse was broken, but the box remained. Was the piece truly permanent, or had they just closed one chapter of a story that was still waiting to be told? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more.